God is good all the time. Hi, friends. All right, it's time for some story time. And I have some props that I'm going to use here in a minute, but I want to do a little backstory first. So you guys have probably heard of a man named Moses who lived very, very long time ago. And Moses has a lot of stories in the Bible that are about him. So it started when he was a baby and he was left in a basket and sent down the river and found and raised in the kingdom. And then he escaped because he had angered the king. He escaped, but then he went back years later and told the Pharaoh to free his people, free the Israelites. And so the Israelites, first of all, the Pharaoh did not listen. So God sent plagues. And finally, the Pharaoh listened and he set the Israelites free. But then he changed his mind and he started following them, sent his soldiers after them. And that's when Moses, this is a story you probably know really well, is Moses parted the Red Sea. And the Israelites were able to escape through the walls of the water. And then the water came crashing down on the Pharaoh's men. So they were able to escape. Well, then things happened and they were in the desert and wandering, and they were hungry and they were hot and they were tired. And so they were complaining. So even though they had seen God do big things to save them, they started to not trust God at times, and they'd complain and say, oh, he's not here for us. He's abandoned us. And sometimes it might feel like that in life, right? So God sent them food. God sent them water. God sent them everything they need when they asked. And then God sent them some rules, and you know them as the 10 Commandments, God's 10 big rules for us. And the story I'm going to tell you today is a story about a time when the Israelites kind of forgot about God's rules. Okay, so one of the things about Moses is Moses would always he would go up to this mountain to talk to God. Kind of face to face. He never actually saw God's face, but God was there with him. So he went up to talk to God, and he was gone for a really long time. And so the Israelites turned to Aaron, Moses' brother, and they were like, Aaron, we need a God who can lead us. Clearly God's not right here. Moses has gone, he's disappeared for who knows how long. So Aaron said, all right, all of you, take off of your jewelry, your earrings, your rings, your necklaces. They didn't have watches, but all of your jewelry, take off all your gold and put it in this pile. And so they did, and he melted down all the gold and he shaped it into something new. So here's my props. Okay. He shaped all that gold into a calf, a golden calf. And so there's Aaron and all the people, and they're finally feeling happy. They're reveling. They're just super excited because they have a God that they can see and who is there for them and that they can worship. So they're dancing and having parties and just it's so awesome to them, right? But then God is like, are you kidding me? So he tells Moses, he's like, Moses, you've got to go and stop these people. And so Moses comes back down the mountain and he's like, what are you doing? You've offended God. He gave us these rules. What have you done? You're only supposed to trust God, right? And so Moses asked God to forgive the people. And even though God punished them, he never stopped loving them. And so he told them to keep walking to his promised land. Okay. So what is a golden calf? I mean, we know this story of the 10 Commandments, right? And that the first one is, you shall have no gods before me. And the Israelites, even though they had seen God working in their lives, he provided for them when they needed it, they still worshiped a golden calf instead of God because they couldn't see him and they were confused, right? And sometimes that happens in our lives, right? We might not see God and we might not hear his voice. And so we start to put other things before God, okay? So let's say we take this golden calf out of here and we replace it with a phone and social media and games and apps. Okay? Or the iPad and watch videos and more games and apps, right? Or money. Who doesn't love money, right? But sometimes we put it ahead of God. Okay? Or I know this is a problem in my house sometimes with some of the people. Video games. We put that ahead of God. Or we care more about celebrities and athletes and what they're doing than what God is doing in our lives, right? Or we put our sports ahead of God, right? Or, and this is one that I struggle with, to tell you the truth, put sleep ahead of God, because life is hard and we get tired, okay? So are any of these things bad? No way, okay? Phones keep us connected to people in special ways, and we can learn through them too. Like iPads, we've got games on here that teach us new things, okay? Money, it's important. We need money to survive, right? We need to pay for our house. We need to pay for our food, our electric, our water, all that stuff, right? Nothing wrong with being entertained by games, but it's when we start putting that stuff ahead of God and making it more important than Him is when we have a problem, right? Same with our sports. These are all wonderful things, right? There's so much beauty. We learn how to be a teammate, and we're using our bodies that God gave us. So there's nothing wrong with this. But when we start watching football on Sunday instead of going to church, or making sure we're at our sports practices and not making time for God, that's when they become a problem, right? Okay, same with sleep. Sleep is important. Our bodies need the rest, but we also need to get up and worship God, especially on Sundays when we have Mass, okay? So all these things are good, but sometimes they become a distraction in our lives, okay? So I want you to think about this golden calf. Yep, I had to paint my kids' Legos, but I want you to think about this golden calf. And so my challenge for you this week is think about what are those golden calves that you put ahead of God sometimes, and find one way this week to put God ahead of one of those. Okay. So maybe it's, you really want to play a game, which is totally fine. Nothing wrong with that. But maybe it's take a little bit of time to say a few prayers before you do that. Or even easier, say thanks to God for some of the stuff you have. That puts Him first. Okay, thank Him for the ability to have this and to play this and, whatever it is. Okay, instead of worrying about the celebrities and what they're doing, which right now we can't because we don't have new movies coming out. We don't have pro athletes. So instead of worrying about this, read a story from the Bible. Okay, there's tons of stories you can find even online. So again, iPad, not bad. Go to YouTube and find a Bible story that you can watch and learn about. So there's lots of ways that you can do it. And so if you do think of some of those golden calves you have in your life and you find a way to put God ahead of your golden calf, I would love to know. So can you let me know, friends? I would appreciate it. And I would love to see you. Okay. All right. Well, that's what I have for this week. And hopefully I'll have something new for you and exciting for you next week. Okay. Take care. Bye.